Your choices, Clark. Your actions.
Like it or not, we are masters of our fate.
That's what makes you who you are.
Last time I seen my brother. Last time I seen the son.
For a while this year, I was pretty underwhelmed by the slate of films that we had because the top of my list was really elite. But from the over 130 2025 releases I saw, nothing outside of the top handful moved me until the latter half of the year. Because as dooming as the state of monopoly studios and filmmaking has become, we're in no lack of filmmaking talent. So much so that I struggled to not make this a top 50 video because I loved so much of the stuff happening in the back half of this year. As always, I'd love to hear your favorite films of 2025 in the comments down below, but let's get into it, starting it off with the honorable mentions. I don't think that the Smashing Machine is perfect, but it does encapsulate winning through loss in a really unique way that you don't really get to see very often. And I do think The Rock's performance is pretty legendary, and Emily Blunt is also really great. Caught Stealing really gave me Mob Boss Good Time vibes, one of the few in my top 20 that I haven't rewatched, but such a short, sweet, and exhilarating journey. Honestly, I haven't heard much of a discussion around this film, but Die My Love was a film I was so excited for since its announcement, and as disjointed and sometimes flawed the first half can be, evolution-wise, this film comes together in a really great and horrific way. The destruction of humanity is portrayed so perfectly, and I think the leads really just knock it out of the park. Jennifer Lawrence specifically, I do think should get an Oscar nomination. For the longest time, Friendship was in my top 10, but it slowly got pushed out. It is one of the best comedies I've ever seen. I've seen it 3 times this year, and I'll probably see it more even soon. I do think One Battle After Another is a little overrated, but damn, it's still really good. I think Chase Infinity is my personal standout, and the pacing is so elite, but to me, the second half just works at levels so high that it makes the first half fall super flat. Frankenstein might not be the perfect adaptation, but I really love Del Toro's take on the creature and this world and kind of forming a human in general. Thunderbolts is the only MCU movie that I really liked this year, the only MCU film in recent years that had the perfect blend of personal and also scaled up action. This is the type of movie I hope we get to see a little bit more of after Doomsday. It Was Just an Accident is another one of the few in this video that I've only seen once, but above the rest, Jafar Pahani creates one of the best movie endings of the decade. A phenomenal exploration of anger, but how fear and guilt are so essential in that feeling of anger in and of itself. I definitely wanted to like Avatar Fire and Ash a little more, but upon a few rewatches, I'm really happy with it landing in the top 12 spot. I loved the third act way more this time around, and every individual scene is just phenomenal. But sadly, I do think the ending / world progression is still very stale. I also think Varang is very underwhelming. I do hope this movie makes $1 trillion, and I will be seated for Avatars 4 and 5, obviously. Rounding out the honorable mentions is Hamnet. My premiere experience at TIFF was like no other. Every single person in that theater was sobbing. But in a theater with only 6 other people at 10 p.m. on a Monday night, on my second watch, Hamnet still managed to tear me to shreds. A brilliant look into grief through art and family. This is easily one of my favorite films of 2025. Number 10, Weapons. This is one of the 2 big original blockbusters that feels like it made a cultural splash. It really is the perfect blend between horror and humor, and I think Zach Cregger's is the perfect person to deliver that. I think Julia Garner and Josh Brolin are absolutely phenomenal. I don't think the film is perfect, and sometimes the non-linearness of it makes it feel a little bit more pretentious than it actually is, but it does have a lot to say, and though it might be on the nose at times, I do think it works very well. Number 9, Mickey 17. I do think this is one of Robert Pattinson's best career performances, and that's saying a lot because he's arguably my favorite actor working right now. I do get the biggest complaint of this film that it is very, very politically on the nose, but I just love the situation that these characters are in. There is just so much that this film is trying to grasp at. Sometimes it can be a little bit too much, but at other times when it is flowing, when the characters are all really in a great flow of interaction with each other and the story is just constantly progressing, I just could not stop thinking about this film, and I just feel like this is the world's biggest fear in the best way possible. Number 8, F1. This is pure blockbuster aura. Brad Pitt, Damson Idris, like the leads themselves, know how to encapsulate this energy of winners and losers and that drive to win. I also think that's a very common theme with films this year. Javier Bardem and Carrie Condon are also really, really good in this film as supporting performances. And I just can't even form into words how exhilarating this film was. I'm very sad I actually didn't get to review it on the channel because it's one of those movies that you see in IMAX, you sit way too fucking close to the screen, but you know you're gonna be so invested in this film. The second that Carrie Condon says he's flying, I was flying. Number 7, Eddington. It's been a long time since I was pulled to rewatch a film that I didn't love the first time around, and a part of it I think was my distaste for Ari Aster as a filmmaker. I love some of his earlier stuff, but Beau is Afraid really threw me off. But at first glance, this film felt very depthless. It felt like there wasn't much to really grasp on other than just it's a very blatant commentary of what's going on. But the second and third time that I watched this film, it truly did hit me as the first period piece of our modern day world. And it's crazy that Ari Aster was able to execute on that. Joaquin Phoenix is absolutely phenomenal. I know this isn't a character as much as what he's used to playing in his career, but this is one of my favorite performances from him just because of the pure insanity that ensues throughout the cast of characters surrounding him. And the final act of this film, post a big action that happens with Pedro Pascal's character, is truly flow state filmmaking in my opinion. Number 6, Bugonia. Both this and Eddington really dive into fractured realities, which is my favorite part of them. Obviously, Bugonia and Eddington are very similar, thus why they are very close in my ranking. But I just love how both of these stories are so fueled by conspiracy, by these online echo chambers, and most of all political polarization. And I like that it's not necessarily one versus other side. There are so many different things to explore, so many different reasonings, so many antis and pros. These are the types of movies that I think can take a sector of our world and amplify them into a way that you just can't really imagine because you're only used to living your singular life. Like I said, I wasn't big on Ari Aster, and I also have not been that big on Yorgos Lanthimos as a whole before these films, and it's funny that both of their films lean into very similar ideas, and I love both of them. You can't talk about Bugonia without talking about Emma Stone and Jesse Plemons, two performances that I do think should be nominated for Academy Awards this year. I do think this is Jesse Plemons' best career performance, and Emma Stone is also delivering something very phenomenal here. I mean, even though it's number 6 on this list, I'd say it's one of the most important films of the decade. Number 5, Sinners. Back in April, this really took the world by storm. And yes, it was amazing, but I rewatched it 5 months out of its release, and I was kind of dreading this rewatch in fear that it wouldn't be as amazing, but happily it holds up exceptionally well. The flow of this film is just unmatched. Coogler makes every correct decision with the story, the characters, and the pace. The most fascinating part of this film to me, aside from the technical brilliance, is every time I see the final scene, without fail, I tear up or I get chills. Because as much of a vampire horror thriller, one night exhilarating fear-inducing movie that Sinners can be, it is about brotherhood. Whether it's between Smoke or Stack or Sammy, there is a core of family in this film, and it kind of gets you wrapped up in all these other elements until a scene that they decide to put through the credits that really wraps this up in such a perfect bow. Number 4, Marty Supreme. To put this simply, this is the film about winning. I find it so fascinating that Marty Mauser as a character is the representation of the breathing actor behind him and his drive to be the best. At the end of the day, this is just a movie about winning for winners. Timothée Chalamet is genuinely perfect in this film. It's not his all-time best performance. Dune 2 is very, very hard to top, but this is in his top 3 for sure. Him and Josh Safdie are working at elite levels to craft this tale of survival and thriving through the love of the game, the antagonizing fear of failure, driving your heart rate up. This film really peaks in a way that's just unforgettable. It is similar to Uncut Gems. It is similar to Good Time, more than I'd say Benny Safdie's The Smashing Machine is, but I think it's also different in a different way. It takes the perfect level of groundedness from Good Time, but the perfect drive to win from Uncut Gems, and blends it into this really just peaking of filmmaking in terms of exhilaration. Number 3, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. I do find the discussion around Mission Impossible movies post Fallout to be a bit exhausting because I don't think Dead Reckoning Part 1 is perfect, but I think the disjointed commentary around that film really seeped into the Final Reckoning way too much. I think a lot of people undermine how this is really the thematic peak of the franchise. This is kind of where everything comes together. They are grasping at a couple of franchise strings like the rabbit's foot, a little too much, more than I'd like, but the Final Reckoning is the exact morphing of destiny and kind of writing your own fate idea that I think we need in the world right now. There's just so much that this film has to offer in a way that I think is so unique to this franchise. And Ethan Hunt, Tom Cruise, this is a character and an actor that are the perfect representation of destiny. Number 2, No Other Choice. Park Chan-wook is up there as my favorite modern filmmaker working right now, and I think it's because of his choice in storytelling. This is simply a masterclass in every technical aspect. There's genuinely zero left behind. My favorite line in this film is, "How could you go against the times? No other choice." I think this line and Lee Byung-hun's performance perfectly encapsulate the state of the world right now, whether it's on a technical level in like the job market, or on the flip side of it, just the state of creativity and the necessity for creativity right now. I think Park Chan-wook is really putting his soul and the ability to make movies into the package of this movie. It really does have the drama and then family and character dynamics that his previous films have had, but I think he really evolves every film on not only a filmmaking technical level, obviously one of the best digital filmmakers to work right now, but on top of that, he is taking a completely different step on the creativity side of things. Originally, I gave this film a 4.5 out of 5, but I quickly bumped it up to a perfect score after the IMAX release. Number 1, Superman. Superman is my most watched film of the year. I logged this film 5 times, and I think it's really just hope core the movie. And I think this year more than ever, I and the world needed it. I get why people don't like this film, I really do. I'm just not one of those people. David Cornsweet is really the Superman I've always wanted. He's a Superman I've always needed. I think that scene between Pa Kent and Clark Kent on the farm is one of my favorites of the year. It's very simple, but the first time I saw it, I really teared up. And then the next 4 times, I also teared up. I think I just love it when movies are able to create such a deep understanding between characters about hope and about purpose. And I think Superman does that perfectly while still being a really fun comic book film. Rachel Brosnahan and Nicholas Hoult are the perfect supplementary pieces to David Cornsweet as Superman. And also, I think James Gunn is just the perfect supplement to David Cornsweet. It feels like they really do bring out a level of filmmaking and acting that we haven't seen in any of his other projects and in many comic book projects in general. I think why I love this movie so much is that it is just a comic book within a movie. The action, the villainy, the heroism, but also the ethical and political dives. This is everything the best comic book of all time does. And that's something I think we really needed in not only this genre, but in movies and in the world right now. This is the definition of a movie that's on the nose. It has a literal 1-for-1 parallel with the real world right now, but I don't really care because it's executed it so well. It's executed at a level that gives me so much hope and excitement in my heart that it's okay that it's so on the nose because it's executed so well. But that wraps up my favorite films of 2025. Again, let me know your favorite films of the year in the comments down below and your thoughts on 2025 in film as a whole. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.